Hi, welcome to Senior Moments. As you know, I'm your host, Vicki Peterson. Our guest today will be Ralph and Molly Richards, and we're going to do part 2 of the Alzheimer's that I told you we were going to do. So make sure you get your pen and paper and be ready to write the information down that you're going to need, because a lot of people are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia in their family. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Ralph and Molly Richards.
Hello, my name is Terrence White, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Serving the counties of Marion, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Boone, our mission is to empower those we serve to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. We offer a variety of programming, including senior and youth programs, case management, weatherization, financial coaching, and more. Please visit our website for more information or call 317-396-1800.
A Senior Moment with Vicki Peterson.
Seniors, let's talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. If you or a loved one have concerns about memory loss, it is very important to be evaluated by a doctor. Early diagnosis allows you and your family time to participate in decisions about your care, living arrangements, financial, and legal matters. For more information, contact Alzheimer's Association National Office. Welcome. We're back with Ralph and Molly Richards. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. So good to see you.
Yes, Vicki, very good.
It's so good to see you guys too. And thank you again for coming for part 2 of the Alzheimer's. So we're going to start by, for those that missed you before, I don't know how, but for those that missed you before, we're going to start real quick with just telling them a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. I'm a retired occupational therapist. I was also a director of rehabilitation programs in a long-term care facility for about the last 30 years of my career. And so I worked with a lot of people that had memory disorder. I did a lot of teaching to the staff, and currently, both of us are currently on the board of directors of the Alzheimer's Association. I'm also on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee on the national level of the Alzheimer's Association.
And Vicki, I come from a corporate background with a large photographic company, but actually radiographic X-ray. I was a manager, but my background is in imaging sciences, electronic imaging, as it relates to MRI and CT and PET scans. So we did a lot of that, as we do a lot of that when it comes to diagnosing of people with dementia.
Oh, wow. Well, I tell you what, you two are really great, and I appreciate the years and the service that you dedicate to Alzheimer's, because it is very, very important. And a lot of families are dealing with it and don't really understand it.
Right.
So I appreciate you guys for being here. So now, as I always tell my guests, the show is yours now. So you can start where you picked up from, or you can, continue on to something different aspects of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So today.
Okay. We'll kind of review. Actually, we started out by talking about understanding Alzheimer's and dementia. We get this a lot. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? There's a difference, and many times they use that word interchangeably. So I'm going to try to simplify this as best that I can. Let's take the word dementia first. And if we're going to define dementia, I like us to look at the umbrella. If you look at an umbrella concept, and it's best illustrated, any neurological disease or any brain nerve disease that interferes with activities of daily living, that is how you function every day, that could be memory, it could be word finding. This is termed dementia. Dementia is not a disease. It just describes a function that is not really normal. Now, under that umbrella, you will find the causes of that memory disorder. And you'll find Alzheimer's, which represents about 70 to 80% of dementias. You'll find other dementias such as Lewy body dementia, HIV dementia. You find all those different dementias. Now, these are diseases. and that which you identify with the dementia. Now, I want to just also mention this, Vicki, and that is there's reversible dementias. That is, that there'll be dementias that mimic things like Alzheimer's, other types of diseases. It could be caused by vitamin deficiency. It could be caused by lack of sleep, stress, guilt, depression. Many of those things can mimic dementia. And we can also say things like hypothyroidism. You know, your thyroid is not functioning. Those can be treated and reversed. Now, there are irreversible dementias, as I mentioned, like Alzheimer's and all those other things that you cannot reverse that at all. So the bottom line is this: not all memory loss equals Alzheimer's.
And this is why the last time when we spoke, we talked about the importance of going to a doctor and getting a diagnosis. Now, we were talking to a friend of ours the other night who kept saying her husband has Alzheimer's, but he's never been evaluated. And his regular doctor just tells them that he's just getting old and this is part of aging. And we encouraged her to go get an evaluation. It could be reversible. It could be something different. Yes, he's losing his memory, but why? So it's really important to get that doctor visited with the right kind of doctor. You know, someone, a geriatrician, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, you know, someone that specializes in memory loss.
I think a lot of people confuses that a lot, like you said. And they do a lot of home guessing. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
You know, they do a lot of home guessing instead of going on to the doctor. Now, I had someone after our last show, they called. I got a few calls.
Okay.
And one lady wanted to know if having a stroke is related to dementia / Alzheimer's.
It can be, because a stroke is damage in the brain. And so depending on where that damage is, because Ralph's going to talk about the different parts of the brain, but depending on where that damage is, it can make you more likely to have memory loss.
And the other thing I want to mention, I did define what dementia is, but I didn't define what Alzheimer's is. And I want to take a minute to do that.
Sure.
If you want to define Alzheimer's, it is defined as a progressive, that is, it continues to grow very slowly, destructive. As it's growing, it destroys the brain cells. Neurological disease. It's not a mental health disease. It's a neurological disease, but it has psychiatric components as it gets further and further into the brain. But not only does it affect memory and word finding, but it also affects senses, your senses, like your ability to hear, taste, touch, see. It affects that as well as mobility, the ability to move. You notice people with different types of dementia, Alzheimer's in particular, they walk very slowly and they kind of shuffle. It affects that portion of the brain that controls the mobility, and it robs the person of their dignity and their self-esteem. Alzheimer's does not happen overnight. When a person starts seeing outward changes with Alzheimer's, it already started 15, 20 years prior, but you didn't see it and we didn't know it. And then after probably age 65, you start seeing it come out.
Right. And the difference with a stroke, it affects a particular area of the brain. And generally, if it's caught and treated right away, then it's not going to progress like Alzheimer's does. So if it's in the speech centers or if it's in the memory center, yeah, they may have some loss of memory, but it's generally not a progressive degenerative disease like Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Okay. Another question that came through was a lady said that her sister, she had been going to the store with her, and she said she'll park almost like in front of the door in a handicap. And when she comes out, her sister really don't even recognize the car. And she'll come up to the car. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking for my sister's car. And here I am sitting. So is that a form of Alzheimer's and dementia?
Well, it could be. Again, we need more information on that one because not recognizing it could be because they're not familiar with the car, number one. But it could be that when they look at the car, it may not look the same to them. Remember, it affects the senses, the eyes, the ability to see. It could be different. And also, when they see the car, they have to process that information in the brain. And they can't process the information is where did I park? What did the car look like? All that information that you need to make a decision as to, yes, that's the right car.
And another thing that can happen with a person that has Alzheimer's, Ralph mentioned vision, but colors look different. And so when she comes out of the store, the car's blue. When she comes out of the store, there's this green car in her vision, a red car, some other car. And so she doesn't recognize it. But this is a case where it really needs to be evaluated to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And real quick before I break, that's a good point you touched there, Molly, because having them evaluated is not easy because they're in denial. So how would you suggest someone goes about having them evaluated?
That's a very good question. And there's several ways that it can be done, none of which are easy. And it's got to be the right doctor because their doctor that they've been seeing for the past 40 years may not be equipped to do that type of evaluation. But sometimes you have to start there to get a referral to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a geriatrician. And so, getting them to the doctor, it could be, like I said, saying, you got to go get your prescriptions refilled. The doctor's not going to do it without seeing you. So let's go and get your prescription refilled and the doctor, but someone needs to be in that room with that person because the person will say, the doctor will say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. Are you forgetting anything? No. But I had a good breakfast. They can just slide by and the doctor doesn't notice anything wrong. So someone has to be there that can, give them the truth, the right, correct answer.
Yes. But with the HIPAA law, is that always allowed?
You're right on top of it. You have to get the HIPAA paperwork signed. Otherwise, no, they can't go in. You're absolutely correct. So you've got to have that kind of relationship with that person that they will, sign your name on the HIPAA form that you can receive that information. That's so important.
Very much important.
Because if you wait too late, their memory will get too bad. They don't even know who you are, so they're not going to sign. Then you have to go to court.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with Molly and Ralph Richards. Tongue tiger there, Ralph Richards. Okay, we'll be right back.
Okay.
A Senior Moment with Vicki Peterson.
Seniors, you probably notice your appetite and food habits changing as you age. Your daily food choices can make a major impact on your health. Healthier eating habits will make you feel better and makes for a better doctor's visit. Foods like vegetables, fruit, whole grain beans, and breads. You'll also need 3 servings of low-fat milk, yogurt, or cheese daily for strong bones. Contact your doctor to schedule a visit with a nutritionist. And don't forget your water.
Over 70% of Americans want to spend their final days at home with family and friends.
With hospice care, we can take care of your father at home, right in his bedroom, including visits by a nurse.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
This will make Grandpa really happy. He's comfortable and pain-free.
Visit our website at www.hospicesupportfund.org to connect with your local nonprofit hospice and download our free end-of-life planner.
Welcome back. Welcome back. And again, thank you for joining us today. Alzheimer's, dementia, it's real. And as Ralph said, it's not a mental health thing. It is an illness that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So with that being said, I have one last question, and then I'm going to let them go ahead and try to answer questions they can project that some of our viewers will be asking themselves. The last question I have is there a test that can be taken, that someone can take to show they has Alzheimer's or dementia?
Okay, that's a very good question. Whoever asked that question, excellent question. There is not a test. There are multiple tests that one can do to determine if a person has a memory disorder. We have to understand that we can't really do a definitive diagnosis of Alzheimer's except by autopsy. However, we can pretty much come close to saying, yes, that's what it is. And we do this by several ways. One is by cognitive testing. They ask certain questions and see how far you remember different things. That's one way. Another way, they'll do laboratory tests to see if there's any vitamin deficiencies, such as vitamin B12, which affects the neurological system, the spinal cord, in the brain itself. There's a vitamin B9, which is folic acid. Excuse me, when women were first diagnosed or first determined they were pregnant, they give them the folic acid, because that strengthens the neural system, not only in the mother, but also for the fetus. They'll do imaging. That's what I love, the imaging. They may do an MRI. They'll do a structural. They look at the brain and the structure of the brain. And then they will do a functional one to see how your brain functions. All these things they do to make a diagnosis. And more times than not, they can come in and say, yes, this person has Alzheimer's. But it could be not just one type of dementia, Alzheimer's disease. It could be multiple ones. It could be Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It could be Lewy body and Alzheimer's, which we call mixed dementia. So, but for the most part, I think it's important that it's very slow, it's progressive, it takes several tests in order to make a diagnosis.
Right, but the important part is it can be made before the person dies.
Yes.
They can find out. Okay, because my father had dementia, and back then they didn't run tests or know anything about it. I don't know what kind of dementia he had. And so I've been in a study at Indiana University School of Medicine for 5 years. I go once a year, and they do all the kinds of tests that Ralph says on me to see how my brain is working. And so far, my brain is working really well. But the thing of it is, we need more people, especially people of color, to get into research studies. It's an easy thing. It doesn't cost me anything. There's different studies. Some are if you're 55 and over. The one I'm in is if you're 65 and over. And most of these don't cost you one penny. I got a free MRI. I mean, I think people get free PET scans. That's amazing because those things cost thousands of dollars.
Right.
But those are the ways that they can diagnose a person, with Alzheimer's. What I want to do just quickly is go through 3 stages of Alzheimer's, just to give a person an idea of what to look for. So the first stage, sometimes people are still working. They still may have jobs. They may take a lot of notes. They may, have some help from family members, but they're okay as far as being able to do regular things. And that can last 1 to 3 years, that particular stage. Now, the second stage is the longest stage. It can be 8 to 10 years or more. And that's when they're gradually declining. And the hallmark of that stage is agitation and aggression. They really start getting upset and angry about things more than they used to. Plus, they're forgetting more and more things, getting lost, those kinds of things. But, that's a long time, 8 to 10 years, to be with someone and care for someone that's losing their memory that way. And then the last stage is maybe 2 years. And in that stage, the person becomes dependent. They need someone generally to bathe them, to dress them, to take them to the bathroom, to feed them. But that's, how the stages go.
I do have a question, though.
Okay.
Another question.
Okay.
Is Alzheimer's and dementia hereditary?
Okay, he's going to address that one. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's an excellent. Probably, you could say there are some genetic involvement, but only a very small percent. There's about 5.8% of the people in the United States with Alzheimer's. Maybe 200,000, 250,000 are genetic related, hereditary. Now, here's how you can determine. There are tests you can determine that. But if you have what we call first degree mother, father, or siblings, sister, brothers, there, the more sister, brothers, or mother, father that have the disease, the greater your risk. If no one has the Alzheimer's, then it's likely that not necessarily you're at great risk. But the only way to tell is that there will be blood tests coming out to determine if a person is affected genetically.
Yeah, we have a friend that his mother and father had Alzheimer's. He developed Alzheimer's. His sister developed Alzheimer's. His brother developed Alzheimer's. At least one of his brothers, and maybe more. So this would be one that would be genetic.
Yes, higher risk factor. Yes.
So someone, let's say that my previous generations, no one was ever diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
So the chances are you thinking, oh, no one in my family had Alzheimer's, but someone has to be the first one. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, in order to, yes. Yeah. And risk doesn't necessarily mean that the person's going to be diagnosed with it. There are deterministic risk, that is, they're genetically, they will get it. And there's a genetic where they're just at risk, which means essentially is that there's a possibility yes and a possibility no. So risk factors, genetics are not as worrisome as the other, when you look at the other means of getting Alzheimer's.
And this is why we need more research, because we really still don't know what the cause is. There's plaques and tangles and all that, but for African Americans, they can have more what we call amyloid in our brain, and we'll have less symptoms than white people.
Yeah.
So, there's got to be more research to kind of figure out what exactly is going on that's causing it.
Yeah. Vicki, let me just say this very quickly. Risk factors. The greatest one is age. That's the greatest risk factor. The older a person gets, the greater the probability. The other is race. African Americans are twice as likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's than whites. The other is gender. Women are more likely to get Alzheimer's than men. As a matter of fact, out of the 5.8 million people with Alzheimer's, 2/3 of them are women. We're not really sure why. People with diabetes, active, get also people hearing loss. All these are risk factors. Diet, all these are risk factors that could lead a person to Alzheimer's.
Right. Maria Shriver is working with women against the women's Alzheimer's movement, and she's trying to figure out why. And she's got a lot of researchers involved. Why women have Alzheimer's more than men? We're trying to figure that out.
Well, if someone wants to be part of the research, where would they go?
Okay, there's two ways you can go. One is with the Alzheimer's Association. They have what's called Trial Match, and they can call the 1-800 number 272-3900. Or with IU, you can go to, we have a number right here. It's 317-963-5500. So it's 317-963-5500. And, express your desire to be in research. You'll be helping yourself and future generations.
That is correct. Any final thoughts before we end?
Only final thought I have is this, is that we ask ourselves as African Americans, why do we want to be involved in research? Let me give you the reason why. Many of us have hypertension, high blood pressure.
Yes.
In order to get our blood pressure down, we need 3 or 4 different pills, medication. Now, white people can have the same problem, that they only take one. Why? Because African Americans are not involved in the studies. We need to be involved in the studies so that whatever the medication comes out, that it will not only help the white population, but also the African American population too.
Generally, African Americans are involved about 5%. And that's in Alzheimer's studies, cancer studies, other studies. You can't get enough information from 5% of the population. Right. We got to get that number up.
Well, we're going to pray we can get that number up.
Okay.
After them listening to you, we're going to pray they call in and people are more interested in getting involved in research because you're absolutely right. We do need to take care of that. We need to take care of our own.
Yes, yes.
So we definitely need to do that. Well, time has come to an end. Molly and Ralph, I have enjoyed you as usual. I know our viewers have enjoyed you. And so I want to thank you again for being my guest and coming back for part 2.
And thank you for having us and allowing this word to be spread.
And we have more information to share. We can never share it in the future. So we're only touching, we haven't touched behaviors. We haven't touched communication, how it affects a person. How do you communicate with the person? All that's part of it too.
Well, we'll have you back. You know I will.
Okay.
We're busy, so we'll put our schedules together.
All
right.
We'll have you back. So viewers, we're going to have them back because all those things that Ralph just mentioned, we need to cover those.
Right.
So we'll have them on more and more. You feel like they're part of the show.
Okay.
Great information for you. Thank you guys again for
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank your guest.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, with that being said, the show has come to an end. I want to thank you again for joining me today on Senior Moments. Viewers, if you have any questions, you know you're free to give me a call at 317-503-0992, or you can email me your questions for our next interview with Ralph and Molly. We're going to continue to do this. And my email is Vickie, Vickie, Peterson, Peterson, 09 at Comcast.net. And don't forget, we're going to have them on my radio show, which airs every Friday on AM 13 The Light at 10 to 10:30. That's every Friday. So join me on there as well. So we'll be having them there and you can call in when they're on the radio show. So be looking out for them on there as well. And anywhere you see where they're going to be or Facebooking or whatever, you may want to tap into that because knowledge is power and you'll be able to help your relatives a whole lot more. So with that being said, you know, I like to end my show. This is the day that the Lord has made. Make up your mind that you will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. I love you and God loves you more. See you next week.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Terrence White, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Serving the counties of Marion, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Boone, our mission is to empower those we serve to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. We offer a variety of programming, including senior and youth programs, case management, weatherization, financial coaching, and more. Please visit our website for more information or call 317-396-1800.
Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like to have my seat?
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.